entrepreneur, author, and businessman Timothy Frey is our very special guest today, Tuesday, November 18th, 2025. Timothy is joining us today to explain how a pending state and federal changes could reshape Wisconsin's cannabis and hemp landscape, and depending on what side of what your point of view is on this, that potentially may not be for the better. But first, for DrydenWire.com, I'm Ben Dryden, and you are watching DrydenWire Live, presented by Americans for Prosperity, Wisconsin. AFP Wisconsin works to reignite the American dream and break down government barriers that hold us back from our full potential. Visit AFPWisconsin.com to learn more and join AFP to fight for more freedom for all Wisconsinites. With that, we welcome in our guest today, here to break down Wisconsin's hemp and cannabis crossroads, our very good friend and one of the most respected businessmen in our community, Mr. Timothy Frey of Ignite Dispensary and Cigar. Tim, good morning.
Morning, Ben. Thanks for having me on, sir. Appreciate it.
How are you?
I've been better. It's been quite the wild ride this last few months, and especially this last week or two here. So, a lot of anxiety in our industry and with farmers and everything else. So, a lot of information getting put out there, and I'm finding a lot of more information on the background of stuff that is trying to make sense of it all and wrap my head around it and what's the best.
Anxiety. Only if there was something that you could.
I do. Yeah. Exactly. Oh, trust me. I dosed myself. I went over and grabbed some tincture right before I jumped on here.
What
So,
is that? What is tincture?
tincture is just a CBD liquid tincture that you take sublingually underneath your tongue. Take some of that in the morning, and basically it just kind of calms you down and lowers your levels.
Lowers your
So,
levels.
yeah, I
My
mean, a
wife
lot
is.
of my vets use use the CBD for PTSD when they're having those moments and episodes, and
Sure.
just calms them right down. Yep.
All right. Well, thank you for coming on. So you usually come on around 420, like April
Yep.
20th, because it's just our show that we always do. And I love talking anything about marijuana or THC because it gets people very strong opinions about this stuff. So I love the topic of the conversation. Uh,
Yeah.
we scheduled this like 2 months ago. This is the first time we've done a show when it wasn't our regular 420 show. And wow, we
Right.
could have picked we scheduled 2 months ago.
Better time,
Yeah, no
right?
kidding. There's so much that's going on right now. So for people who don't know, why don't we start there? There's like two parts of this. There's the federal, what happened after the shutdown, the THC, essentially like a THC ban is kind of what was kind of looked at or referred to as, and then that kind of pushes it to the state. But let's first, for people who don't know, what happened at the federal level regarding THC.
So during the government shutdown, there was a lot of hard lobbying going on, and one of my biggest issues with politics and everything like that, and laws being made, is they should not be able to like slip these amendments or these big, large, important things and slip them into must-pass budget bills. That's number one. Okay, so what happened was Mitch McConnell, who is retiring or whatever, got a very large donation from the bourbon companies and slipped this prohibition language into the government reopening bill, basically, which completely would eliminate 95% of all hemp products in the nation. That a lot of vets and people rely on to manage their own well-being and their own health and trying to get off prescriptions. So again, Ron Paul tried to actually get that stripped out of there, and unfortunately lost that on the Senate side of things. Then it went down to like the House. And what was very interesting there is probably about 14 GOP members said they weren't going to vote to reopen the government, and because this was in there, and wanted it stripped out as well. And without any wording or anything else out there, all of a sudden they all voted for it. So, if they wanted to ban like hemp and CBD right out of the gate, they would have banned it day one. You know what I mean? Which would have destroyed a 28 to $46 billion industry overnight.
Mm.
So I think that they personally got some reassurances that like we got to get the government open. We got to get SNAP benefits to these people. We got to get TSA back going before the holiday season. So I think they got some sort of reassurance that like, let's just vote for this, open the government, and we'll deal with this in January after the first of the year.
Yeah.
Again, if they wanted to ban everything, they would have done it right out of the gate. Number two, the hard part for me to think about this is that alcohol wanted this prohibition ban. Well, you start doing the numbers and stuff like that. You take like top 10 liquor out in Minnesota, 25% of their sales are from these beverages. Ben Paddle Brewing up in Duluth, 40% of their sales are from this. Diageo was down 7% year over year. This category of products is filling a major business gap for these companies. So I think that they wanted to get it on the books so it gives them better leverage for negotiation going forward. My business partners on the U.S. Hemp Roundtable has been doing a lot of lobbying. Speaks directly with the CEO of Total Wine. I think that the beverage is probably going to get, have a federal cap limit of 5 to 10 milligrams of Delta 9 THC, and it's probably going to get folded in under the alcohol. That's my thinking on it. Again, who knows? The government can do whatever they want, but I don't think that they can really get rid of a 28 to $46 billion industry that so many people rely on, especially these farmers. I mean, that's poor farmers always take it in the shorts, like we always say. And the hemp was a good diversification for them, and this is going to eliminate a lot of it.
And that's
Now,
essentially where this
yeah,
started, by the way. It was literally the Farm Bill in 2018
yes, sir.
that allowed this, essentially. And to be perfectly honest, I'm surprised it took like 7 years for them to go, wait a minute. Right? Because
Right.
usually it's like, I remember buying a drone, I don't know, like 9 years ago. And I was using it for DrydenWire. We would take some aerial shots, etc., whatever. And after a year, I don't know, it was okay, but I didn't really use that much. And I gave it to my dad. And just a couple years ago, I saw him in Shell Lake, and I said, "Why didn't you bring your? I think it was the 4th of July fireworks or something." I said, "Why didn't you bring the drone?" And he goes, "Oh, are you kidding?" Now, I think he was speaking in hyperbole when he said that at this point you basically have to like file like your flight path with the FAA just because
Yeah.
it took a while. It was like the Wild West for a little bit there, right?
Mhm.
So this
Yep.
all kind of started there. Now, if I'm understanding it right,
And
though,
every show that we have done, I have spoken profusely that we desperately need regulations in this industry.
yeah,
But again, you've got the one side that wants complete freedom and no tax, and this is a plan and it should be shared with everybody. And then you got the social devil's lettuce people that want this completely banned. Again,
yeah.
common sense down the middle like never gets done in this world, unfortunately, and like there's a lot of good ways that we can do this. Very smart ways for tax revenue to protect the kids and everything else. There's common sense regulations that we
No.
can come up with for sure.
Well, again, going back to this though, just for people who aren't
Yeah,
familiar with
sorry.
this, so the federal when that happened, and it got you're right, it got tied in and got thrown at the last minute, which kind of screwed everything up. But you're 100% right, where it's like, well, we can't just say no to this with Ron Paul's introduction. Like, we need to actually put this amendment in there. Because you can't shut down the government or keep it down. We're like 2 seconds away from getting this thing passed to open up the government again. It's unfortunate they kind of throw in those little earmarks there, but it is what it is. But my understanding is it's going to be like a year, though, right? So like that
Exactly.
doesn't actually
365 days. Yep. So it
365
gives us
days,
time to negotiate.
right?
Yep.
Now, help me understand this if I'm right. I saw in an article on Wisconsin Public Radio that was saying that this essentially, shoot, I think I even wrote it down somewhere. I saw it this morning. A WPR story said that this essentially makes this a state issue. Why? If the federal did that part, I mean, is that an accurate assessment that it's essentially a
Yeah.
state issue now?
It can be, yes. So, just like how marijuana is federally illegal at the federal level, but states have their own medical marijuana or recreational marijuana programs.
Mm.
So the state could in turn pass a law. So, you have Swearingen's bill, which is 606, which I was very against because it would basically kill vertical integration and fold our entire industry into that we built into the alcohol world. Basically, I'd have to sell a couple of my companies just to be able to stay in business, which is not fair, number one. But number two, I can't control my supply chains then. Like I pride ourselves on our quality, and, I need to be able to. We're a seed to store company. I need to be able to literally, plant that seed and be able to harvest it, so I know what I'm putting, what we're putting in these products.
What
So,
is vertical integration?
but vertical integration is basically where you've got a grow, you've got manufacturing, you got distribution, you got store level. Okay.
As of right now, as it
Yeah.
stands, because again, 365 days here, or we could say like as of a month ago, um, uh, your business. Walk us through
Let
how does it
let me.
work?
I'm sorry. Let me just finish answering your question from before, because what could happen is because Wisconsin could pass their own state law,
Uh,
which would basically we would be governed by the state. So we wouldn't be able to sell interstate commerce, but we would be able to stay in business based on the rules of the Wisconsin bill. But we would maybe be treated like marijuana. So companies like me might lose my federal tax deductions, the 280E, because like in marijuana, if you're a marijuana company, the only thing you are allowed to write off is cost of goods. You can't depreciate machinery or anything like that. So
okay.
Wisconsin could step up and pass a common sense hemp bill that would allow us to stay in business and everything else. And I don't know what the aftermath would all that look like, on the federal side of things. But to answer your second question, if this bill goes into place or whatever, I mean, every single CBD store is going to be out of business in the country.
All right, and I'm glad you brought that up, and that's where I'm trying to lead this to. I think is to
Yep.
first understand for the average person like myself who doesn't understand this world, what are you able to do, and people like you in your business right now, or say a month ago, versus if this all came to fruition, then what does it look like? So let's like put it in like real life application stuff here. So right now, you grow your own there, and then you like
Yep.
how does that process work, and then what would change? That's what we'll get to, and then we can start looking at some of the bills or proposals that people are actually lawmakers are suggesting. So as of right now, what can you do?
So right now we're licensed by the USDA. We grow CBD hemp flower. We have inspectors that come in and regulate it and test our grow. I work with farmers to, buy hemp crops that we take and then process into CBD full spectrum oils, isolates, Delta 8 and Delta 9. Which are the two of the intoxicating cannabinoids in the cannabis plant. And so right now, basically, we grow our own, we have it processed, we put it into tinctures or manufacture it into gummies. So that's what we can do right now. On the federal side of things,
And you
if,
can
like I
sell
said,
it.
if,
So you can create it, you can grow it
yep,
there, and then
yep,
you can sell it there as well.
correct.
Right? Yeah, got it.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yep, yep, yep. And this is hemp. So again, too, you've got the cannabis plant, and
Yep.
then you got your two varieties. I'm sorry, you've got marijuana that's high in Delta 9 THC and low in CBD, and then you got hemp that's high in CBD, low in THC. So
Okay.
people that want the medicinal properties of the cannabis plant without the psychoactive effect. I mean, hemp is better on the medicinal side of things anyways than marijuana, but that's another story because you go back to like the 70s and you hear these old timers say, oh, that stuff's too potent for me nowadays or whatever, and they're completely right, because now on marijuana, like THC percentages are 20 to 30% and only like 1% CBD. You go back to the 70s, because we had some seeds tested actually down in Illinois, it was like 15% THC, 6% CBD. So
Okay.
they are completely right on that.
Okay. So that you had referenced earlier this bill 606. So what is that?
So 606 was a bill put in to effect from Assembly Member Swearingen. He was Representative Swearingen. He used to be the Tavern League president, so it's actually a very, very well written bill in regards to a lot of aspects of the cannabinoids and legalization. Because us as an industry, we are all for regulation. 21 plus, truth in labeling, certificates of analysis, licensed stores, which we definitely should talk about because this stuff is rampant everywhere in gas stations and Ace Hardware. uh,
What?
that's literally where I have starting to have issues with this, is that and I trust me, I love Ace Hardware. I'm one of their best customers. But when I walk into Ace Hardware and I see gummies being sold right next to the counter, right next to the power tools, I think that's the dumbest thing in the world to mix power tools and THC together.
I'm not going to lie.
I
I
mean,
did not know that was actually. I thought you
yeah,
still had to go through places like yours.
no,
I didn't
unfortunately
even know it was
not.
at
I
gas
mean,
stations now, or
yep,
at
it's in
freaking
all kinds of
hardware
gas
stores. That's
stations,
so
liquor
bizarre.
stores, but yeah, the Ace Hardware that just gets me. You know what I mean? So, on the low dose stuff, like I said, Minnesota actually did their low dose market very well until very recently when they changed some stuff. Like they have 5, 10 milligrams. You get you have stores that are licensed. You pay a fee to get, for compliance and everything else that you can sell up to 5 and 10 milligram items. Anything higher than that needs to be in dispensary age restricted stores. So
Got it.
again, the problem what I have is education. Like you ask people when you go at the gas stations or Ace Hardware, what's in this? Where did it come from? How do I use it? They can't answer anything. I mean, we have competitors, my competing stores that send their customers into our stores to get education, which feels good, but still frustrating.
Yeah, not everybody does it. Obviously, like you do. So that 5 to 10 milligrams right now. So,
Yep.
what is the? So let's get back to like what is being discussed in the state
Sorry.
606,
I'm
and I
sorry.
see no, it's perfectly fine. But I see like Jay, and I can't open any of these links. So, but I see something about Senate Bill 644 or something. I don't know.
Yep. So let's finish with 606 real
Yeah,
quick. I'm
yeah,
sorry, because you said so he was the Tavern League president.
yeah,
Again, that bill is written very well in the cannabinoid world, talking about licensing, but basically it's
yeah.
going to
Yep.
fold our entire industry that
Uh-huh.
we built into the alcohol world, and which is going to be a three-tier system. So there is a few aspects of that. Like I said, it would eliminate vertical integration because I would not be able to distribute my own products. I would basically have to sell my products to an alcohol distributor and then rebuy them back from my stores.
Wait, hold on. 3 tiers. What are the 3 tiers?
uh Manufacturing, distribution, retail.
Oh, okay. Hold on. So manufacturing, distribution, and right now you're currently are you under the manufacturing and retail?
We do everything from seed to store. So
I get it.
growing. The only thing I don't do right now is processing, but we used to. Unfortunately, federal government didn't really get behind us,
Okay,
so
so this would change it. So then what would that look like for a store like Ignite Dispensary and Cigar? Um, if this
I
came
would
to
have to
fruition, if
sell off my
606
grow,
came
but
to,
yeah.
uh-huh.
I would have to sell off my distribution company and probably possibly my grow company. It depends on what level of ownership I want. Do I want ownership at the distribution level, or do I want it at the retail level, or do I want it at the manufacturing level? So,
And you're saying that's similar to then how alcohol works,
that's
right?
exactly how
But wait a
alcohol
minute.
works.
Now
Yeah.
you and I both live in Spooner. Round Man, they sell or they make their own beer, their craft beer, and then they sell it in their own
That's because,
location.
yeah, yeah, the craft beer, and I don't know the exact law on that, but basically, there's a law in Wisconsin that allows breweries to manufacture their own beverage and then actually sell it to the community. So I could do that if I wanted to. I could manufacture and then just go right to my stores. However, like I need that distribution company to manage my inventory and stuff. Now, the thing with 606 that I have an issue with on that is that it's written in there that it would allow brewers to still do that with THC drinks. They could make their own THC drinks and sell them to store and sell them on the retail level. But so you're going to allow a brewery to do that, but you are not going to allow a farmer that manufactures their own tincture to then turn around and sell that to the public. That's
I get it, but again, this started in 2018, and I think, well,
Yep.
maybe you wouldn't agree. And I'm not even saying this is my view on this. But do you think that this has been, for the last 8 years, 7 years, a largely um, unregulated
Unregulated
industry?
industry.
Do you think?
Yes.
Do you think
And
it has been?
yes. Yes.
So, so you don't like the 606. You're not a fan of, right?
No, I mean, there's a lot of good language in it, but there's certain things like, I testified down at the Capitol in front of the assembly on this at the committee meetings, and like there's a 1 nanogram limit for blood. There's so many unknowns that aren't written specifically in there. One was you can't manufacture products that are commercially available on regular market. Well, who decides that? I mean, they could literally turn around and ban gummies instantly.
Who
So,
are they listening to?
again. I'm sorry?
Who are they listening to? What I mean is, you're down there, and you would be. I would say you are by far the biggest expert that I know on this. It's not just an expert. This is your passion. You know everything about this from the very get go, from the very beginning to the very end. You have worked with every agency, including local law enforcement and district attorney's offices. I mean, you go above and beyond, which is totally you. But obviously, not everybody does that.
I wish the lawmakers would create a cannabis committee of industry professionals that
There
can
you
guide
go.
them and advise them on this, because they're writing laws as lawmakers and they don't. I mean, this plant is very complex and the business aspect is very complex with all the, differences. And I understand all that. So I have literally offered myself up. I've spoke with Swearingen myself. I gave him my 2 cents on these bills. On some things he listened to me on, some things he didn't. But again, like, we need a cannabis committee, to basically, at this point, we need to just figure out and pass like a true recreational cannabis, hemp, cannabinoid law in Wisconsin and regulate this. So, because we are losing up to $500 million, and if hemp goes away, up to 750 million, give or take. You know what I mean? Like, we're talking major money here that Wisconsin's losing because people are jumping over the borders.
I'm writing that down. I want to get to that. Hey,
Yep.
this has been great so far. Let's take a quick 15-second break. We'll be back after a word from our sponsor, Spooner Health.
Compassion is at the center of everything we do. It's rooted in who we are and why we're here. It unites us as providers, neighbors, and as a community. Learn more at spoonerhealth.com.
All right, you said $500 million we're missing out on? What do you mean?
Yep. Absolutely. So,
Just from
whether, again, you've got the people that want the freedom of this plant and not to tax it. And then you've got the social, conservatives that want this banned. Again, I am an independent, common sense, down the middle kind of guy.
Yep.
Like I said, we desperately need regulations. There's a lot of things that us as an industry can agree on. 21 plus, truth in labeling, COAs, licensed stores, milligram limits, licensed stores. Again, what I'm getting at though is, like, when you actually run the true numbers, we're losing probably $100 million to Illinois because people jumping over the border to buy recreational cannabis, marijuana. You got to Michigan probably another 100 million. Now that Minnesota is opened up with the largest border of Wisconsin, we're going to be losing probably
Like
close to another
200,
200
yeah.
billion. Then if they actually, and again, you're going to have the people, I don't want to tax or whatever, but you could put a very low milligram tax on these products and easily, on the hemp side of things, easily get $100 million. So now we're talking about $500 million in lost revenue, or a missed opportunity that Wisconsin's giving up on. Now that we can go to more law enforcement, reduce property taxes, fix roads. But my entire thing on this is we are about to be we are surrounded now, and I know that these lawmakers don't want us to look like Michigan. Like, when you go to the border, it's 7 dispensaries, things like that. And people want medical cannabis. 68% of Wisconsin people want legalization. Okay, so we have turned that corner now. If you don't want us to look like Michigan, they need to get in front of this and pass some common sense laws. If they go recreational, or I'm sorry, if they pass a medical marijuana bill, The Native Americans are going to open up their own stores on reservations, and we are going to be a recreational state without control and without tax revenue. Okay, so if they created cannabinoid licenses and limited them, and I know a lot of people are going to argue with me on that, but I'm trying to come down the middle here between the far left and the far right. Limit the licenses, so maybe there is only one store in every town instead of 7 or things like that, because the amount of people, half of my customers are over 50, and even some of them still drive to Michigan all the time. They'll buy some stuff here at my store and they'll drive over to Michigan or up to Minnesota and buy the other products that they want and need for their own health.
Most people, when advocates and proponents of legalizing marijuana, one of the first things that they say, which I've always said was kind of silly, but whatever. The first thing they say, a reason as to why, is, well, alcohol is worse, and that's legal. And the only reason I say that's a silly argument, first of all, it's true, just to be clear,
Yep.
but it's a silly argument because it's almost like you're saying that, well, marijuana is bad. It's just not as bad as something else. I just don't like that approach just from, a debate standpoint. I think that's kind of silly, but it's a fair point. But if that is also true, when it's alcohol is bad, marijuana isn't as, we should treat it like alcohol. Isn't that essentially what lawmakers are trying to do? That, okay,
they are
let's treat it like
trying.
alcohol. So if you're kind of connecting those two, let's just treat it like alcohol. We already have rules and policies in place for alcohol and how we handle that. So we're just going to apply that same thing to the cannabis world.
And I do understand your point. Where my disagreements come in is this plant is not alcohol. It is not created the same. It's much more complex. I need to be able to control my supply chain. When I've got people that come into my store and need something, I can grow certain strains for certain ailments. There's 113 different cannabinoids in this cannabis plant.
Super.
That we know of. We're just learning new ones, like canaflavin A is like 30 times as anti-inflammatory as ibuprofen, but it's $1,000 a gram. The problem is that these alcohol companies don't understand this plant and are not educated enough to go out there and sell it to the masses. That's my issue on it. And again, the complexity and education that has to go into this. So we do need to treat it like that, but I do not think it should be folded in, because then we're going to lose the medical benefits of this plant. That's why it needs a separate cannabis division, separate regulation with people that know what they're looking for and doing, that understand the complexities of this plant and how it all works together.
Craig says, if alcohol were created today, it would not be legal.
Yeah. Well, so cannabis or marijuana is truly the only thing that isn't man-made. Remember, we've talked about this before.
Yep.
Like, it has been put on earth since the beginning of time. It's only because of the 1937 Tax Act that it got banned. And that was because it threatened a lot of industries. And industrial hemp, my gosh, is the future with hempcrete, with textiles and flooring and lumber and paper. I mean, that is amazing. And that needs to, and Wisconsin can truly get behind a lot of industrial stuff too. But then on the other side, you've got the elders, the aging communities that want to get off these pharmaceuticals, that want natural plant-based therapies and, remedies for their ailments.
And some people just want to get high. I wish people would just say that.
Right. And some people just want to get high. Exactly.
I've never once heard anybody actually just say that. Like, somebody's like, I like drinking alcohol. Why? Because I like the feeling, and it makes things more fun, and I like the buzz. Like, nobody likes getting drunk, but they like the feeling of having a few drinks and stuff. Great. I just wish proponents of wanting to legalize marijuana would just say, I like the feeling. I really do.
Well, like every night I'll smoke some cannabis or take a gummy, and it just relaxes me.
There you go.
And I'm not paying for it. I'm not using alcohol because I don't use alcohol anymore.
Yep.
It almost destroyed my life, and cannabis has truly saved my life, my marriage. I'm a better father for it. And what's the harm if as a freedom of American, and I want to just take a little gummy so I can relax at night after a stressful day, because how stressful my life is. If I didn't have these products, I would not be able to sleep at all. So
Philip says AB 606 is dead in the water. The Rules Committee didn't assign it to the Assembly floor for a vote. The liquor distro lobbyists lost all the support. when the feds announced the ban in the
It could
CR.
it could get resurfaced, and that's literally what some other this is the background and stuff, and this is what I'm talking about, is that a lot of people know the what's out in the news and stuff, but I have talked to my lobbyist who has talked to federal lobbyists, and we need to decide what bill, would we rather have a bad bill in Wisconsin? Do I trust that the Fed is actually going to do something right for once? Not necessarily. So, do we want a bad Wisconsin bill to save our business, or do we not? But like Jay was talking about, so 606 could come back if we wanted it to, if we dropped as an industry dropped our opposition to it. But 644 is a way better bill. However, it was introduced by the Democrats, who don't have control, who didn't reach across the aisle for co-sponsorship. And I don't think that, unfortunately, has
So
a
it
leg to
could be
stand
dead in the
on.
water.
I mean, if again, I'm a common sense kind of guy, Ben.
Yeah,
We desperately need regulation. We can craft a common sense bill. 644 is really good. They need to add a couple things to it, though. They need to add they need to add some licensing and some milligram strength limits, and some better compliance checks and things like that. But
Tell me.
it is really good. And I mean, the Republicans could literally take that bill, add a couple things to get their votes on their side, reintroduce it like they did on the hemp pilot program back in 2018, and pass their own bill which mimics that, and it would go through. But I don't know if the Democrats did this for political reasons, for election or not.
What are you
But for
talking
them to
about?
not have a Republican co-sponsor on this bill is a huge mistake, because this bill could save the industry in Wisconsin, but it's not going to go anywhere because the infighting between these politicians.
You had mentioned about the strength of these things. I don't understand that stuff. So you've talked about like nanograms. You talk about milligrams. What is it right now? Like a gummy, for example.
Well, let's back up and go to flower for a second. So if you smoked marijuana, it is 20 to 30% when you take a hit,
Yeah.
okay, of THC that you're getting. All
Okay.
right. So when you're talking a beverage at 5 milligrams, or 10 milligrams, that's, you're just going to get a slight little buzz from that, And I mean, these high milligram drinks, I mean, there's 20 milligram drinks, there's 50 milligram drinks. These should not be in bars and restaurants. I mean, most bar owners talk to me, why would I sell this product if I can one of these beverages versus selling 5 beers? Well, my argument is if you sell the lower dose stuff, somebody like me is actually going to go out there because I can drink 4 of those. 20 milligrams, my limit.
Yeah.
My wife is 5 to 10 milligrams. I've got friends of mine that are 20 to 50 milligrams. Okay, so but gummies, flour, that should not be able to be sold at bars. The beverages I'm fine with, because I'm literally tired of going out to the bars, Ben, and ordering a cranberry juice. Like, I've been asking for mocktails for years at these places.
So what is currently in like an average gummy? I mean, it sounds like there's a range of things. So just pick anything.
Anywhere from 5 to 30 milligrams.
5 to 30. And any of these proposals that are being discussed, you said they're going to likely limit that, right?
Well, in 606, it was a 20 milligram limit.
Okay.
Which is, it's reasonable, again,
now, is that for one gummy or one, if it's a drink, and I don't know how many.
Correct.
Yep. Okay. So, but wouldn't that actually kind of help sales? Because then kind of like what you're talking about, if it's a lower amount, then you would have to have a couple more.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
the other problem is on 606 is the taxes, because they basically, like, the beverages would be taxed so little, but like a gummy pack, like, or whatever. I mean, what was it? I think I did the math, and it was almost like $50 in tax that the state would collect on that. And that's not fair. You know what I mean? Make it even across the board.
Yeah. Philip says we need your whole audience to call the head of the Senate, that'd be Mayor Falskowski, to get it heard in committee. And then
I am literally working on getting in front of her.
Craig said, here's a question we need to address. If it's federally illegal and hemp falls under 280E tax law, do we go for
Do we go full and that's my point,
right.
Ben.
Yeah, that's
we are literally now at the point.
We're going backwards, it almost seems like.
I'm sorry, what, sir?
It seems like we're going backwards. What I mean is, like, when it comes to like legalizing marijuana, at this point, it was like,
We
okay,
are.
we're not really actually talking anymore about should we or shouldn't we, or do we or don't we. It's about how we going to do it, right?
Correct.
And, and,
Yeah.
and then now it's like
You
this is
can't
something
take
different.
you can't take medicine away from these vets right now and all these people that depend and rely on this product. It's too big. It's too big.
You know, hold on, I want to go back up. I missed one in here. Angie Sapek.
Sorry.
Good morning, gentlemen. Tim Frey has such a wealth of knowledge on this topic. I feel like he can really help change the stigma of the hemp cannabis industry. So you have been.
I actually gave Angie a tour of our entire operations yesterday. I've given tours to Romaine Quinn, Angie Strau, Chance Green, Angie, and I will gladly meet any representative and give them a tour and give them high quality education. I mean, real quick, Ben, like when I talk about education and why I don't feel these alcohol companies can actually provide the correct information to people out there, this is literally my education book for my employees that every employee that we hire has to read, go through, sign, and take a quiz on.
Yeah, I don't want to work for you, dude. That's a lot of reading.
You know, there's a lot out there. I mean, this plant can help in so many different aspects of medicinal. You know, you've got CBC, which is one of the most highly anti-cancerous out there. You got THCV for ADHD and appetite suppression. People are using that instead of Ozempic or whatever, you know?
So you had mentioned that you had Angie Sapek, former 73rd Assembly District Representative, now running
Yep.
in the 25th. Angela Stroud, you had mentioned she is the 73rd, and she's a Democrat. Angie, Republican. Romaine Quinn, Senator, Republican. Chance Green, Republican, 74th Assembly District. So you've been talking to people in our area. How are they receiving this? Is it? Do you feel like it's lip
The
service
lawmakers
where they come
are
there and they're like, "Oh yeah, no, this is a great idea," but then you go and look and you're like, "What the frick? I'm looking at why aren't you signing on to this bill or why aren't you doing this?" Do you feel like it's just being paid? You're being paid lip service when you get these visits and everyone's telling you the right thing, but I'm not seeing that in laws.
No, I mean, they understand it, and it's evolving and it's changing. You know, I mean, that's the one thing I will say. I mean, they see all this, but then you've got the social conservatives, the devil's lettuce people in their ear on the other side of things. You know, so it's tough in regards to that. I mean, unfortunately, what I'm hearing from especially like my farmers is that it's very. This election is very important for the Republican side to keep control of. And again, I'm independent,
Yep.
dude. I'm just
Yep.
I'm
No,
just telling
me
the
too.
facts
No,
here.
this is just it's how it
So
works.
what
Right.
I'm hearing out there is that if Republicans want to continue to win and keep control of stuff, they need to get on board on this because I've talked to farmers that voted Republican their whole life and voted Republican their whole life and everything else, and they are now starting to think that do I need to change my vote and vote for my own self-interest versus my moral and ethics feelings on things,
It is
including myself,
it is a huge
including
single.
myself.
It is a huge single issue vote. It absolutely is. And it used to
Absolutely.
be like just abortion, right? Like I'm against all this, but I can forgive all this, but I'm pro-life or I'm pro-choice, whichever side you're on. Like
When
that's a big single issue. But
68%,
this is becoming
Sorry.
another really, really big one.
yeah, 68% of Wisconsin voters want legalization.
All right.
Why are we
That's
sending
not
a half
true.
a billion
That's not
dollars
true.
to other states?
I
You know,
just
a
want to be
half $1 billion, Ben. What can this state do with this? I mean, they snuck in that stupid vape law or whatever, which cost my store 30% sales. But you know what it costs? You know what it costs the state of Wisconsin? $50 million in annual revenue that they are losing because they passed this stupid ban when they could have done it, a common sense, middle of the ground law.
All right, I just want to go back to the 68% thing.
Sorry.
When you said 68% of Wisconsin,
Yeah.
it's not 68% of Wisconsinites. Now,
Yes,
I
it
do
is.
believe that more, I do believe that, no, I'm just saying, that's like, I think you're probably referencing the Marquette poll, right? The
I believe so. My
Yeah.
computer's not working.
Yeah, the
I can
Marquette
try to pull
poll,
it up.
I'm just saying they send out, or they contact about 850 people when they do this poll. Only half the people that will even respond to that. So basically you're looking at like 400, we'll round up, 450 people answer that. In a state of 6 million. If you do that same ratio All you'd have to do to find out what Washburn County wants, of about 16,000 people, is to ask 1.2 people. Like, it's just not that. I'm just saying, it's like 450 people in the entire state, and like that's what Wisconsin wants. Having said that, where that number actually is legit, though, even though that single poll, just in a vacuum, it's not, doesn't mean anything to me. But if you look since at least 2019, every year it shows the same percentage, and actually that percentage is increasing. So I think that's where it gets legitimacy for the Marquette poll.
Yeah.
Not the one poll, because it's, come on, 450 people. Shut up.
But
every single
and I'm
year,
not, yeah,
it's the
that's
same
your
number,
realm,
and it's
dude.
getting higher and higher. All right, that's actually, yeah, it probably is the majority of Wisconsinites. I would believe
And there's a lot of people that would use these products that won't, because because like marijuana is illegal. If they legalize it, people would try these products and use them. Again, half of my customers are over 50. Half. And I've helped people get off so many prescription medications, better quality of life, relaxation, reduce their alcohol.
Yeah, why don't we do that? Why don't we bring it to a referendum?
We can't, because Wisconsin doesn't allow that. Wisconsin is not a referendum state.
But counties could, and cities could, and they've done that. I think there's like 16 counties that have. Well, that was like for
The decriminalization.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, and I mean that's number one. That's the first thing that they should start on is decriminalization. I mean, how many cities in the state have already reduced it? La Crosse just reduced it to $1. Superior,
Eau Claire's $1. Yeah,
Eau Claire. You know what I mean? Like, again, we're surrounded. We are surrounded. And this is a plant that's been around since the beginning of time, and I understand the stigma behind it, but these devil's lettuce older folks were fed so much propaganda back in the day to like, oh, you're stoners. I'm sorry, marijuana is not the gateway drug. Alcohol is the gateway drug. No one starts with marijuana. Everybody starts with alcohol and moves into other things. So yeah, sorry. Can I let me read this one statement from a vet real quick, because this is pretty powerful.
Sure.
4 years ago, I began using high-quality hemp consumables. John Jowers, a disabled combat Marine. With just 2 months, I was off all my prescription medications except for my diabetes med. The 11 drug interactions that once sent me to the ERs and hospitals simply vanished. I transformed from a man burdened by thousands of pills into a high-functioning individual, a better husband, father, and person, all thanks to these products. I stand before you today to please ask you not to ban a product that has given me and countless others a second chance on life.
Well, that's legit.
I mean, that's powerful. I mean, the vets that I mean, two of my district managers are veterans and have used cannabis to help them with their PTSD, their ailments from serving. And that's just them. I mean,
so how do we get this? How do we get this done? So we're almost up to our time here. But
okay.
So what's the next part? There's some bills. It sounds like 606 was dead. Maybe it could come back. There was a Democrat bill, I think you referenced, I think it was 644, something like that.
Yep.
That could be a thing. So when is this going to be taken up in the legislature? And how do you see this ending, and what needs to be done now?
Well, Ben, I mean, I never thought my life would be nothing but lawyers, lawmakers, and lobbyists. And unfortunately, over the last 6 months, that's what my life has turned into. So I am learning that political environment down there. I am not an expert by any means. So I don't know all the procedural stuff on this. All I can tell you is, I mean, 644 is a good bill. I just don't think it will go anywhere because of the infighting. So I think the Republicans need to take the language from 644, add their own language, like I said, licensing, maybe a milligram limit, maybe figure out, because you've got the libertarians that don't want 21 plus, they want 18 plus. Because if you can go to war, you should be able to do that. I mean, that's a whole nother argument. My opinion is everything should be 19. At least everybody's out of school. I mean, draft, voting, alcohol, cigarettes, whatever. But those are my personal beliefs.
Yeah, can we just pick one age, for crying out loud? For everything?
I know, exactly. So I think the Republicans need to add their own language to 644, reintroduce it, and also reach across the aisle, because the Democrats will support this, because they see they see what this plant does for people, and so do a lot of the Republicans. I mean, you've got the socially conservative ones that'll never get on board on this, even though plants are referenced in Genesis and whatever. You're going to have those folks that are never going to do that. But again, this needs to be bipartisan, and a new bill needs to be created with both Republican and Democratic leaders, co-sponsors, and get this thing passed and protect the hemp industry in Wisconsin, completely, because and then that doesn't matter what the feds do. We'll deal with the aftermath of the taxes and everything else, but I would much rather continue to be able to help my customers and the people, constituents in Wisconsin, and lose tax codes or whatever. I'd much rather do that and stay in business than have this entire industry go down the tube. And now then everybody's going across the border for their cannabis.
Well,
Everybody.
you're talking to the politicians and how these things get done behind the scenes. That's a little more my world. And I gotta tell you, man, there's two things you never want to know how it's made. That's sausages and laws. You don't want to know how it's done.
Baloney too.
Baloney too.
I ran fiber optic cable at Jerome Foods, and I will never eat bologna. So
that's good to know. Don't tell me why, because actually I don't like bologna. I don't eat it, but don't ruin it for everybody else. Please keep eating bologna. You're helping out the bologna farmers or whoever makes bologna. My guess is nobody.
Right, yeah.
All right. What else do you want to make sure we talked about that we didn't get a chance to talk about?
Again, I just want I want the lawmakers to start a cannabis committee, or a cannabis caucus. Reach out to industry professionals. I don't need to get paid. I will offer up all my expertise. I will explain to you what this plant is, how it works, and how it can work with business, and make sure that they can cross and create some common sense regulations to save this industry, keep Wisconsin moving forward. But I mean, it is time. It is time. We are surrounded. We can't just be talking about hemp anymore. We truly need to be talking about this entirety of this plant, and Wisconsin can do it. Let's get a quick hemp law into place or whatever, and let's work on creating common sense, full recreational, because I'm sorry, like I said, medical is not the answer. If they don't want us to look like Michigan, they need to get in front of this and pass some regulations to control this, because that's the problem, is they let this go rampant, and there's so many bad actors out there that aren't testing their products, that are putting all this junk in there. They're selling to underage, you know what I mean? They should have done this years ago. And that's the problem, is that we need to get ahead of this. And again, what can Wisconsin do with $500 million for their Wisconsin constituents, rather than sending it to the other states?
Do you and your peers, do you have do you guys put money in for lobbyists, for lobby groups, for something that people that are advocating for you as well?
Ben, never in my wildest dreams of growing up did I ever think I would have billboards or have a lobbyist, and I have both. Welcome to the world I live in now.
It's huge. It just absolutely is. You can like it, you not like it. It's just, this is how it works.
I mean, I am literally just meeting with senators and representatives. I met with Robin Kirsch in New Richmond. Again, Angie Strau, Chance, Romaine, Angie, who's running. I've met with multiple other ones down in Madison, and I'm just going to continue going down there and fighting for this, because this is, again, this is a huge industry, and this plant can do amazing things. This plant can literally save the world and help with textiles, lumber. I mean, the plant absorbs 4 times the carbon dioxide of a tree, like all this carbon capture stuff. Just start planting hemp everywhere. I mean, the Spooner Ag Department, grows hemp over here. They just created a strain without THC. I mean, the possibilities are endless on the industrial side of things and on the medical side of things.
It's going to be interesting to see how this plays out.
It is. I mean, unfortunately, like I've had to really calm a lot of my employees' nerves and everything else. I've had employees already, saying that they're quitting and going to try to find different jobs. And I tell them, just hold on. Let's let the dust settle on this, because there's so much information out there, like behind the scenes stuff that like I'm learning about that is not in the news and everything else. But the way people can get involved right now is, like I just watched an episode. These veterans were on the news thing, and they're just like, you cannot take away my medicine. People truly believe this is their medicine. And, I can't say what ailments online, over broadcast, what this can help. But I mean, this is truly medicine. And in our world, cannabis is medicine. So, people can call their legislatures, reach out across the aisle, tell their lawmakers we need to save hemp in Wisconsin, because hemp was one of the biggest industries in Wisconsin before the prohibition. We would make textiles and paper and feed hemp to cattle. I mean, they made naval rope out of hemp. That's where the term smoking rope came from. The first Model T car ran on hemp oil. Just throwing some history at this thing. So we need to save this industry in Wisconsin, and please, write letters, call their representatives, tell them that we need some common sense hemp regulations, but we also need to move forward and just do full recreational cannabis, because I'm tired of sending all these tax dollars to other states.
Well, we'll get the update from you in 6 months when 420 comes around. And you're back
Right.
for our annual show. Unless something major happens, we'll have you back on after that. But best of luck to you, man. I think, no kidding. I said at the very beginning when I introduced you, you're one of the most respected business persons in our entire community, in multiple communities, because you've been, your Hayward location, you have Spooner, I think Superior still, right?
Yep. And all those places, doing education for law enforcement, education for
And you do it the right
representatives,
way.
please reach out to me. Any representative watching right now, please reach out to me. Come take a tour. I will educate you. I will show you how we can protect the kids and help Wisconsin constituents and bring a ton of tax revenue that we can do amazing things in Wisconsin with.
Thanks, Tim.
Thank you, Ben. Appreciate your time, sir.
Special thank you to our guest, Timothy Frey of Ignite Dispensary Cigar, for taking the time to come on for a chat today. And thank you for all of your comments and your questions, participation today. I'll see all of you this Thursday, November 20th at 8:30 a.m. when I'll be chatting with Senator Romaine Quinn, who joins us monthly for legislative updates from the Wisconsin Capitol. So until then, for DrydenWire.com, I'm Ben Dryden saying thank you for watching, and as always, have a blessed day.